to 1 Million Cups Fairfax chapter. We're so glad that you can join us this morning. Please take a moment to check in to our app. If you're having issues, if your screen freezes or whatnot, please, if you delete the app and reinstall it, I know it's a little pain, but that will allow you to check in and log in. This helps us to know that you're here and allows us to grow as a community. Okay, so there are three key pillars at 1 Million Cups, and they are entrepreneurship, community, and education. And so if you're excited about that, those things, you're in the right place. All right, our mission is at 1 Million Cups is pretty simple. It is come together as entrepreneurs and as a community to help each other and overcome business challenges. 1 Million Cups is an organization founded by the Kauffman Foundation, and there are over 160 chapters all across the country, and that meet every Wednesday morning, just like this one. Next. All right, so the way we run our meetings is very different than some of the meetings that you may have attended or used to. We focus on presentations, not pitches, so you'll not see a pitch that is offered to sell or offer services. We focus on making authentic connections, not networking, and we are run by the volunteers in the community and for the community. Next. All right, so we strive to create a safe and supportive environment where everyone feels welcomed and ideas are shared without fear of being shut down. And as we are a community, we need your support through your attendance and participation. And as mentioned, we are an all volunteer-led group. Next. All right, so as many of you agree, we are a fantastic community of entrepreneurs and business owners, and it's one of its kind in this area. And as we are a community, we need your support. And so how you can help us is by attending, and it brings together our community of business owners and entrepreneurs, and there are over 160 chapters all across the country. Next. All right, so these are some of the ways you can help us and support us. First, by attending the meetings every week, which all of you are doing this morning, and I thank you for that. Second, participate in the conversation and provide feedback during the presentation segment later in the meeting. And third, engage with us online and share our content on your social media. That will help us to get the word out. And finally, invite your friends and colleagues to help grow the community. All right, next. All right, so as I mentioned, 1 Million Cups Fairfax chapter is organized by volunteers, and these beautiful faces you see in front of you make things happen behind the scene so that our weekly meetings are run smoothly and our community continues to grow. If you can show your support by giving your virtual round of applause, that would be greatly appreciated. All right, next. Next slide. All right. At this time, I'd like to recognize our sponsors. Normally, when we meet in person, we have two sponsors. One is a space sponsor, and second is a monthly coffee sponsor. Even though we're meeting virtually, we like to recognize our sponsors as a tradition. So first, our space sponsor is Office Evolution. Sylvia, would you like to say a few words about Office Evolution?
Sure. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sylvia Ferguson, and I'm the Business Center Manager of Office Evolution. So here at Office Evolution, we have beautiful private offices, conference rooms, virtual services like a business address or co-working. So if you're interested or a small business entrepreneur and you would like to know more, please reach out to us. I will put our information in the chat, and yeah, I would love to speak to you. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks, Sylvia. Second is the coffee sponsor for the month of March, and it's Extraordinary Solutions. Renetta, would you like to tell us a few words about Extraordinary Solutions?
Good morning, everyone. And I am the founder of Extraordinary Solutions. Our mission is to help women entrepreneurs in the military community bridge the gaps that are missing in their business is in order for them to be successful. We focus on helping them strategically design and create processes that allow them to streamline their services for their customers. We are completely virtual, and we are expanding into podcasting as well.
Right, thank you, Renetta. Next slide. Okay, so before we have our presenter speak, let me go through some of the ground rules for our virtual meeting. First of all, I'd like to ask everyone to please keep your microphone on mute during the presentation. And after the presentation, you have opportunity to provide feedback on their business challenge, as well as opportunity to ask questions. Our moderator this morning is John Rutenberg, and he's going to help facilitate that discussion. Next slide. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Ray Mcgee, who is the CEO and founder of Bloomcatch. Ray, take it away.
Hey, thank you so much, John. I just want to make sure when I prompt for next slide, do I just say next slide? Is that acceptable?
Yes.
All right, excellent. So my name is Ray. Thank you all for having me this beautiful Wednesday morning. I've enjoyed getting to know and enjoy your various greetings this morning prior to 9 o'clock. I am the founder and CEO of Bloomcatch. I started this company a few years ago based on a hike with my kids. We were walking through Huntley Meadows Marsh. If you know Fairfax County, you may or may not know that marsh. It's one of our favorite ones to hike in, especially when they were younger. My kids were asking me a bunch of questions about plants, and I couldn't answer all the questions, so I downloaded a few apps that I thought could help me better educate my children on nature. And they didn't work as well as I thought they should. So I decided to start building my own just to help my kids better appreciate nature. So my challenge question today is, what is the best way to engage a new audience and use it to build a partner network? Next slide, please. What is Bloomcatch? And big thank you to Melinda for refining my deck. We are the combined Google and Amazon for plants. Next slide. So the problem that we're looking to solve in the marketplace is selecting which plant to get and keeping it happy. There are various reasons why you may buy a plant from the store, your local garden center. Here in Fairfax County, it'd be Merrifield, or various others, depending on your preference. Why is the plant dying? Could be a pest, a bug, soil composition. The sort of main cause people have for not keeping their plants alive is too much water or not enough water. Or maybe you don't sing to it enough or talk to it enough. You know, plants need to be entertained, and there are various reasons why you can kill your plant. So next slide, please. So this is where Bloomcatch comes in. We are helping you keep your plants alive. Bloomcatch does this through accurate identification. We have artificial intelligence incorporated within the application, which is available on iOS and Android. Uses image recognition and machine learning to help you accurately identify your plant. And when the AI doesn't always have a high confidence, it kicks you over to our plant experts to help you identify it. It guides you as to where to purchase the plant, including your local nursery or garden center. I've already mentioned Merrifield. And it gives you ongoing plant care guidance to keep your plant happy. Next slide, please. How it works, already mentioned, image recognition and machine learning. We start with that technology. We've incorporated plant care recipes within the application to help you give you key facts about the plants. One thing that we're going to build in the product roadmap right now is the ability to identify and help users resolve issues with pests, bugs, diseases, as well as that linkage to garden centers, nurseries, and retailers for sales. And one thing we have in the application right now is a scalable native plant database that is also using geocoding to figure out where users are throughout the country, but you can turn off that for privacy settings. Next slide. Our business model. So we offer a freemium business model. Users can download the app and immediately start using it for free. And with that, they can accurately identify their plant and then connect to their local garden center. And we emphasize local businesses and connecting those to our growing user base. Again, we have extremely accurate plant identification through our technology and through our plant experts. And then you can keep your plant happy through our plant care guidance. For a recurring subscription model, as part of our premium services, we charge $1 per month per user, and 10% of that dollar goes back to local charities. We have 2 local charities that we already have agreements with here in the DMV area. One is City Blossoms in DC, and the other one is Washington Youth Garden. Next slide, please. So what makes us unique? And this gets back to that expression that, again, I have to give kudos to Melinda, in which we want to be the Google and Amazon for the plant world. We are looking to facilitate plant transactions, such as seed swaps, local plant sales, and more within the application itself. We're starting with connecting our users to local retailers. It's Merrifield, Green Street Gardens, Meadow Farms, Betty's Azaleas, education classes and horticulture organizations. The main component that sets us apart and the main feature that's keeping people engaged in the application itself is we have real live plant experts who know their plants, and they connect directly to our users. And this is our main point of differentiation between our community and our connection to local businesses. Other plant apps, they kind of stop at only identification for their plants. We take it a step further by building a community and supporting small businesses and local charities. Next slide. Other future opportunities for Bloomcatch. Using Bloomcatch for garden center employees. I had a great conversation with Lowe's Innovation Labs a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about Bloomcatch and Lowe's and how they would kind of like to see synergy between the 2 organizations. And surprisingly, they had a lot of ideas on how to adapt Bloomcatch to better support their employees. So they mentioned we should develop an API that feeds into their system to better help their employees both identify plants, answer plant-related questions, and do better upsells. Melinda's been talking to me about special branding with organizations such as the National Garden Clubs, which I had never heard of before she had talked to me about that. So that's pretty exciting. Plus other organizations that I talked with in the past, the Sierra Club, national, regional, local parks, hiking organizations, and various garden tours. Next slide, please. So this is a snapshot of our competitive analysis. There are various other plant-related apps out there in the marketplace, but this is what I would define as sort of the major players. We'll start at the top. In fact, let me reverse that. We'll start with PlantSnap. They're sort of the biggest player here in the US. They're based out of Colorado. They have a $20 annual fee. They have sort of all of the same technology that we've built as well. And again, we're a later entrant into this marketplace. They started really focusing on their community aspect, which is, again, one of our main points of differentiation, but they are still not doing that connection to local nurseries and garden centers. Picture this is based out of China. They have, in my opinion, a great solution, but they stop at pure identification. They're not building the community. They're not doing a direct benefit to local garden centers, local brick and mortar stores. That's kind of where they stop their value proposition at. And My Garden Answers, I would put them as third or fourth now. They also offer a good solution. They're focusing now more on the identification and identifying plant diseases and pests. I'm very pleased to report the former founder of My Garden Answers, who actually pivoted away to start another business. He and I recently, somebody connected us, and he expressed a keen interest in being Bloomcatch's advisor. So we're still fleshing out the paperwork. It's a bit premature to announce that, but hopefully in the next week or so, I'll be able to formally announce that he will be the company's advisor. And he took My Garden Answers to a previous #1 plant identification app on the App Store to an exit for himself. Next slide, please. So our early objectives and sort of channels for early marketing, promotion, and traction here, right here in the DMV area is where we want to start. We've identified gardening blogs and podcasts. Our social media channels, we're going to kind of rigidly focused on Instagram is a major channel for us because of the pictures. TikTok is, again, another major channel because our target market is millennials between the ages of 25 and 30 for our beachhead in this market. Facebook as an add-on. Pinterest is a major player for us. YouTube as an add-on as well. And then moving into our partnerships, I've already previously mentioned City Blossoms, as well as Washington Youth Garden. We have a contract with Green Street Gardens to leverage for our partnership. And we're going to explore the other partnerships mentioned here. So national retailer, other garden centers and organizations such as the National Garden Club. Next slide. Milestones. So to date, we launched the app back in December 2020, finally. Been working on this thing for years. We've been doubling user downloads month over month since launch. We have the contract already mentioned. We have the contract with Green Street Gardens. Green Street is based in both Maryland and Virginia. I recently pitched late December 2020 to the National Science Foundation for one of their SBIR grants. I was pleased to report that they did invite me to send a full proposal in 2021. Added a first member of our advisory board in January 2021, a gentleman named Chris Sparno. We're looking to add our second member, Alex Shaw, former founder of My Garden Answers. And I'm continuing to grow contracts with the national and regional retailers. Already mentioned the previous conversation I had with Lowe's Innovation Labs. I'm looking to set up a conversation with Home Depot in the next couple of weeks to establish sort of an anchor store for the company. Next slide. Oh, that's our team. So this isn't the Bloomcatch's entire team. You don't see our wonderful plant experts as well as our amazing social media guru. But people like the slide, so I'm going to talk about it briefly. That's me on the far left. The rest of the team, Radu Grama, I recently converted him to be my CTO. But he was the former lead developer for the company, and he was doing such an amazing job that now he's the company CTO. Dara, she's been with me for years. She's our director of marketing, and she's also phenomenal. Dave has been with me from day one, before this was even a company and before it was called Bloomcatch. He was listening to my incoherent ramblings about what I think image recognition and machine learning and AI should do in the near future. So he's been guiding me for a long time. He's also the company's legal counsel. Chris Sparno, I mentioned him. He's the company's technical advisor. He sits on our advisory board, and I meet with him weekly. Next slide. That's it. Thank you. Raymond Mcgee, that's my contact information. I also included my contact information in the chat box. And next slide, I think we're going back to the challenge question. Okay, so my challenge, best way to engage a new audience and use it to build a partner network. So I don't know if I'm supposed to keep talking or.
No, Ray, it's my job now.
All right, thank you, John.
So first, let's give Ray a round of applause. That was fabulous. So Ray, my advice to you, when someone makes a suggestion or asks a question, give a very short answer and or say thank you very much. The questions and suggestions will be more meaningful to you since you already know the answers. But please do respond, of course, and with that, you can raise your physical hand. You can put your hand up. I see a couple right away. I've got Rosemarie, then Eddie Lloyd, then Marnie Miller. Rosemarie, you're up.
Good morning. Hey, Ray, thanks for doing this. Great presentation. I love the idea. And I love the business model, your approach to it. Your challenge question is sort of along the lines of our business model, right? How do you engage people that open the doors to new partners for you? In your case, I didn't hear it, so I'm going to put it on the table. Have you contacted the Master Gardeners groups? So these are people who, like CPAs, they are required to take training every year. They're, in fact, Melinda can probably help you find a whole bunch. They're actually an outgrowth of a federal state program that's part of the agricultural college system in the United States. There are master gardeners throughout the country. I know when I lived in Fairlington, the community center in the before times, 3 to 4 times a year, they would actually have in-person 2-hour training programs at night that would help the community and the gardeners. All the gardeners take hours and hours of training every year. Many of them take many, many years to become classified as master gardeners, kind of the way sommeliers do. They get trained, they keep their hand in, they train others. And they're all connected to each other, and they're all connected to the agricultural colleges, and they're connected very widely in the horticultural space. I think making just a few connections in that environment will actually open up a lot of new potential partnerships for you that can also move you forward on your challenge. I just downloaded the app on my Android, so I'm looking forward to using it.
So thank you very much for the question, Rosemary. The Master's Garden program, I love that program. Thank you for mentioning it. The lady who runs it in Fairfax County, her name is Adria Bordas. I've been engaged with her for years. Back when I was the product, the app was on mock-ups. Somebody connected me with her, and she's actually helped me develop the app from paper to a fully functioning app. She's also connected me to the owners of Merrifield Garden Center, where she does a number of her classes. And since we connected that way, the owners would always let me just come in and interrogate their employees for hours sometimes to continue to refine and beta test the app. But thank you. I'm actually working on a partnership with them for the state of Virginia. It's a little bit of a bureaucracy, so I'm having trouble kind of figuring out who needs to actually sign the paperwork. But we've been working on that for a few months.
Great. Eddie Lloyd.
Raymond, can you hear me? Good morning, everybody.
I can hear you great, Eddie. Thank you.
Raymond, listen, first of all, this app is killer. It's wonderful, right? I downloaded it this morning and I have started to use it to identify plants that I already know that I have. You said Instagram, but you didn't, but Facebook, not really, right? So I'm looking at the app and I'm thinking in terms of growing a new audience, target customer, wouldn't a good target customer be 40s, 50s mom, suburban, and they're on Facebook more than on Instagram. So I wondered, so one question is, wouldn't you go after them better on Facebook rather than on Instagram? I understand Facebook and Instagram are tied together. Second question or second point is Lowe's, Home Depot. We're coming into spring, and this is where these same moms and dads go to get their plants. So the people in these stores in Lowe's and Home Depot who are actually selling them, oftentimes they don't know as much about the plants as the people who are coming to buy them sometimes. So are they a target for this product as well? Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for the presentation. Wonderful.
So thank you very much for the question, Eddie. And I want to make sure I understand your question. I believe it's a two-part question. One is the question relates to why are we not putting Facebook at the forefront for that older demographic for social media channel? And then the other part of that question is using the application in Lowe's and Home Depot as part of that older demographic, especially now with the spring season upon us. Did I understand you correctly?
You understand me exactly correctly. Remembering also that these same people who are going to Lowe's and Home Depot have got bank. They've got lots of money to spend on flowers, more, I think, than the millennials who you indicated as a target market. Thank you for your time.
So thank you so much, Eddie. Now that I understand the question, let's start with the first part of that. So through our sort of market research we've been doing for a little while, you can think of the horticulture market as a big pie, right? A pie cut into 3 big slices. One slice is 55 and older. The other slice is about 35 to 55. And that final chunk is anybody under 35. So we've been testing this. Where should we go as our initial approach to the marketplace? What's our beachhead? And I am an older demographic as well, and I assumed that we're going to go after people like me, people with a lot of money to burn, people who go in Lowe's and drop a few $100s, and they're just like, I don't care because I need my flowering landscaping looking good. However, the fastest growing part of that market is, believe it or not, 25 and under. They're also the people who most likely who are extremely savvy with their smartphones and applications. They would be the easiest sell, going through the right channels to sort of initially download the app and immediately begin using it. So we pivoted that after doing our market research to go after that target immediately. That's not to say we're going to ignore the rest of the market. We're still going to use Facebook as a marketing channel. It's just not going to be our primary. Now, moving to Lowe's and Home Depot, that's a bit of a challenging question, and just having their employees immediately use it. Let's use Home Depot as a case scenario. So I had a conversation with Home Depot a couple years ago, back when I was still researching a little more in a different way. And Home Depot, the employees who deal with the plants are contracted here in Virginia, at least Virginia, DC, and Maryland. They are part of a company called Bell Nursery. So they're a supplier, right? And they're the ones who put the plants out. Now, the people who deal with the plants in the store, the employees, they don't know anything about plants, but there's a contract that sort of separates separation of duties. So that's a different sort of challenge than Lowe's, who used to have these people called plant nursery people that they recently got rid of all their titles, and that became a different problem. But they have specific employees that deal with all of the plants themselves. So they're kind of 2 different nuts to crack, and they have to be approached differently in understanding the sort of economics and the business behind what they do.
So let me jump in for a moment and ask our questioners to please keep their questions short. And Ray,
Yeah.
You know your answers. Take note of the questions. It's being recorded, and you can also keep your answers short, because yes, we all care, but this is really for you.
All right. Thank you so much,
No
John.
problem. Marnie Miller.
Thank you. I will make this as quick as possible because you addressed this. I will second what Eddie said. I understand the research, and I am not going to second guess your research. I am in that 35 to 55. I love that broad category. I don't have to get closer than that. But just like Jen said, when she first heard the app and you described it, her first comment was, "Oh my gosh, an app for me." I feel the same way. So for me, my first thought was HOAs. HOAs would be a great partner for you. But then as you're talking about the younger group, the other thing that came to mind is someone came to me who is much younger than me and said, hey, and I think there's a proper name for this, so forgive me, I'll explain it, you can figure it out. But it's garden sharing, but it's not one garden and everyone splits it up. It's I grow the cucumbers, you grow the tomatoes, they grow and that's becoming a bigger and bigger thing. And so again, forgive me, I don't know the proper name, but there is a more appropriate name for that. But that's another avenue that might be a good partner for you.
Yes. Marty, first off, that's a beautiful car you have behind you. I feel like we've been talking about that all morning. Secondly, great point. There is a more technical name, but that's fine. This app originally, the idea, the genesis was for my kids, right? So that's also on eventually down the road of making sure it gets in the hands of little kids. But yes, it's for people like you. It's for people like Jen, whose favorite plant is forsythia. Yes, Jen, I saw that. But we have to start somewhere. You can't eat an elephant all at once. So we're just starting with our market. That's where we're kind of staying at for the next 12 to 18 months.
Great. So I have Jen Dalton, then Tony Barnett, then John Foster. Jen.
You are a serious multitasker, Ray, since I just downloaded the app not too long ago. Just a few thoughts, and you may already have this in the pipeline from a development standpoint, but it seems like there is an opportunity to have in the profile setup, what problem are you trying to solve? Like for me, I don't want to kill my plants. And so that information might be presented in a different priority. Or if it also were me saying, hey, I want to grow edible plants in my yard, right? So I'd love to get your thoughts on, is that something you're considering? Because there are different reasons. One of them should be adventure with your kids, right? You go out and you want to look for stuff. So I'm wondering if you have some segments as you're looking ahead for the next 6 to 12 months that might help you. And even if you don't have the capability yet, maybe gathering that data would help you with targeting and what you're going to offer later.
So Jen, thank you very much for your question. And thank you very much for downloading the app. In regards to your question, yes, it's all about gathering the data. And it's actually at the forefront of our development priorities right now. What we are doing, now that you've downloaded the app, you've seen the homepage, and the homepage is just like, it's random, right? We put it out there just to have something, but that is going to be the main page that we change in the near future to focus on our differentiation strategy, our community. So when people have specific things they want to do within the app, we can gather that information and immediately respond to it, and which will dictate how we what our next developmental priorities are. Because we're going to only build features that people, want to know about. So say Jim wants to know about adventures. If that's validated through enough users, so maybe another 1,000 users who all say, hey, I also want to know about adventures, then that becomes the very next thing we build out. So thank you, Jim.
Excellent. Tony Barnett, then John, then Deb Cohn.
Raymond, love the app, played with it. And my question is this, and it goes to more of a monetization point on this. And you may have already mentioned this, are you considering when you open it up and it says learn more about a plant, are you going to add a tab that says, where can I get this plant? Because I think that is the critical point. You've been talking about all the relationships and partnerships with Lowe's, with Lowe's and the others. But if you see, for instance, when my dad used to love going to gardens and he'd see a plant, he'd love it. And then he'd spend weeks trying to figure out where to buy it. If you take a picture of a plant that you like, and it has the information about the plant, and then has a button that says, where can I get it? And because you're already capturing the zip code in the app, it will point you to whichever store or nursery or partner has that plant for you to buy. I think that's a critical change in your app, but everyone will love it because whenever they see a plant and take a picture of it, they can snap on the app and find out where they can go get it right then and there.
So was there more to the question, Tony, or was that?
No, that was it. It's just, have you thought about that, or is that something that's in the pipeline that you're going to be doing?
Yes, 100% monetization. You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly where we're going, which is why we're having these discussions with Lowe's and Home Depot, as well as all the other garden centers. So let's use Home Depot as an example. They have about 1,500 SKUs in relation to plants. So if somebody's looking up a specific plant, either in the search box, or if they took a picture of it and it comes up as identified, then they can connect to, oh, by the way, did you know this plant is now available at your local Home Depot, which is 3.4 miles away from you? You should get it now because it's usually only available for the next 2 weeks. So that sort of useful, actionable information is exactly where we're going. You will see that in the app within the next 6 months. That's the plan.
So they want to see the user numbers first before they commit to, doing an API integration?
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
No problem.
Thank you, Tony. John Foster.
Hey, Ray, how are you?
I'm doing great, John.
Good. I guess I get three things. One is my mom lives in a senior citizens home. They have a community garden, and everybody gets a plot. So I didn't know if just from a there are a number of senior citizens homes that are out there, and so just thinking about from a marketing standpoint, marketing those places, because I got to tell you, I've had conversations with my mom and questions about what she needs to do next and preparation of the garden, that sort of thing. And occasionally they have somebody in charge of that they turn to, but sometimes that person ends up leaving. So I can see this app being a benefit to the senior living places. So didn't know if you taken a look at that. And then the other area I didn't know if you covered hemp, cannabis, and mushrooms.
All right. So is that the entirety of your question, John?
Yep.
All right. So I want to make sure I capture everything. You have a two-part question. One is, have we thought about senior centers, specifically outreach to their people who do the gardening there as a partnership? I'm assuming that's the nature of it.
Those people, but basically the communities themselves as a tool.
All right. So to answer the first part of that question, the answer is no. But if you have a connection, please connect with me after this, and I will gladly pursue it. Sure. I did not think of that as an option, so thank you. The other part of your question is, have we thought about cannabis, hemp, and things of that nature? The answer to that is yes and no, and I'll say yes and no. Let's start with the no first, primarily because this app originally started as an educational idea for children. Yep. And we kind of want to keep it focused on being a family-friendly app. Now, we all know the sort of the argument between cannabis and hemp and how that's still being argued legally, right?
Right.
However, every time I talk to a fellow founder who's actively engaged in the cannabis market, they're like, "Oh man, you should totally build this thing and just stop doing whatever you're doing and just focus on cannabis. Cannabis is where all the money's at. This is where you need to go." So it's been said to me enough times where I've been thinking about it more seriously. We would have to, it wouldn't be a material change to how the technology works. It would just be a different approach.
Yep.
But yes, it is under consideration. Every time I've pitched this into an audience that caters a little more to cannabis, they're always enthused about, well, when are you going to do this? Because nothing like this exists. So we would have first mover advantage, and all the advantages there in doing that. But yes.
Okay, guys, we have a lot of questions left, so we got to keep it rolling. Next up is Deb Cohen.
Morning, everyone. I'm Deb Cohen. I'm a management consultant. So thanks very much, Ray, for the presentation. Sounds like a great app. This is more of a suggestion than a question. But have you thought about the Scouts, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts? My son he started as a Cub Scout when he was 5. He's now 18, and he's an Eagle Scout. And I can tell you, over all these years, he has done so much camping and so much hiking. And of course, the kids today all have phones, right? So would that be a potential application and a potential new audience for you? And to me, there's a snowballing effect to that. So it's not only the kids who go out hiking and want to see, but then it's also, there are a huge number of adult leaders involved in scouting. It's not just one or two, it's lots of them. So there might be a snowball effect to sort of reach that other audience as well. So don't know if you've thought about that, but that's a suggestion. And of course, Girl Scouts, not just Boy Scouts.
So to quickly answer your question, Deb, the answer is yes. In fact, one of our previous beta tests, we had a group of about 20 Girl Scouts just go out in the middle of the woods and use the app. And that helped us change some things up. If you have a direct connection to the people at the Girl and Boy Scouts, would love to connect with you afterwards to further pursue that. I've only kind of worked with the local troops here in my neighborhood just to pursue that. So that answers your question, Deb. Someone asked a question, and I'm not sure I answered it well either in the app or something about home ownership or home communities. There is an app called Nextdoor for those who are in HOAs. And that is one of the strategic partnerships we've been looking at, because everyone in HOAs, I live in an HOA, they use Nextdoor to communicate as a community. And I think that would have a big ROI in just advertising Bloomcatch through Nextdoor, because you directly really reach all those homeowners. So that's it.
So John, I saw you had a comment in the chat. Perhaps you'd like to expand?
Yeah, it was just a comment. I was agreeing with Eddie. He mentioned about the older demographics have a larger percentage of home ownership, and depending on who your target audience is, they're the ones that you want to go after. That was all. Thank you.
Okay. And then I have Phyllis Simon, then Melinda.
Hi, my name's Phyllis Simon. I'm an intellectual property attorney. So I was thinking when you're talking, it seems like there's a couple different directions you can go in. You can go in the kind of mass market plants like at Home Depot and Lowe's, or you could go with really specialty plants. And I'm not sure there's even a either or situation. You could always do both. But my suggestion is if you can target specialty plants and growers like native plants or small nurseries that operate at farmers markets, heritage or heirloom plants, that kind of a thing, because those, I think people who are willing to pay for an app to identify plants that they and then know where to find them, they're in my mind, they tend to be looking for something more specific or more special than people who just wander around Home Depot and grab a shrub, that they think that's on sale. So, maybe look for a more upscale kind of a target market. And the other thing along those lines is partnering with nature centers or botanic gardens, because they often don't have, sometimes they do have an associated nursery and they don't always have the best signage. And so having, seeing the big plant, the mature plant on display, and using your app to identify the mature plant, and then going into the sales center and then being able to, because as you know, young plants don't always look like the mature version of them. So those are my two.
Great.
Right. I wanted to make sure I capture that, Phyllis. One is you're recommending that we kind of specialize in what we do, because that would cater to a more upscale audience. And the other part of that is, I kind of missed the second part of that. It was something to do with partnering or
Making yourself available, or going into nature centers or botanic gardens and asking if you can drop a flyer or something with a QR code, so then visitors to the nature center or the botanic garden can use your app to identify plants that way. And then it would be beneficial, the benefit that the botanic garden would have is sometimes they do have a small nursery associated with it, and so people could purchase the plants there on site.
Got it. All right. The answer to your first part of your question is I agree wholeheartedly with what you're saying in specialization, which is why our app is, I didn't talk about it in terms of kind of how we built it, but it's actually scaled down considerably versus all these other apps who are out there claiming that they could recognize, thousands and thousands of plants. The way the technology works, you can't do that with confidence, because it all works on confidence intervals. So what we did was we said, we just want a high confidence interval. In order to do that in an AI perspective, you have to limit the vocabulary of the plant itself. So we completely flipped that around. So we are specializing, and we're going to continue to do so. But in order to cater to a client like Home Depot or Lowe's, you only have 1,500 plants. That's easy. But let's take a Merrifield Garden Center. They have SKUs of 30,000 plants, but people aren't going in there to buy 30,000 plants. So then how do we specialize there? Which is what we're still trying to answer. But the way the app is built, it already, we kept it from the initial sort of way we built it, focused on native plants. That was based on a conversation, a very long one, I had with the Virginia Native Plant Society. And I was given a sermon all about how you better not build an app that does not cater to native plants here in the state of Virginia. I was like, okay, all right, I got it. Now, the other part of that, yes, we are pursuing those types of partnerships. I know Melinda has already given me another sermon about that. So yes.
Excellent. Melinda.
Got a bunch of things, and I'm going to just list them real fast. The Merrifield teaches classes, as I know, Ray, you and I talked about, but carrying that thought just now about gift shops at nature centers, in museums or whatever, you could have a tie-in or something, or we support or we're a partner of. You could put little signs out in the gardens with your QR code. If you don't know what this is, click here. TV series, HGTV has a lot of stuff. Martha Stewart has a gardening show. PBS has a bunch of gardening shows. They can be good partners. The premium incentive industry and the ad specialty industry, they give gifts away. So maybe there's a way you can put together a one-year membership, or a lifetime membership type of program. And that you might even do when you start rolling it out, where if you say that, 1 year is XYZ at our higher premium level, but if you want a lifetime, then you can come up with something for a lifetime. You're not just a plant expert, which I heard you say earlier, you're a keeping plants happy expert, and that includes something really unique. It's diseases and pests and all sorts of other things. None of the other apps go near any of that. So that's another really good definition of your differences. The comment about homes was HOAs, like townhouse communities and condominium communities that have a lot of gardens in their communities. And then community gardens. There are a lot of towns and communities that also have programs where they are have everybody that shares a community garden. Just as a couple other ideas. And then the last thing I wrote down was, I'm trying to read my notes, nature centers and everything, again, tying into the gift shops where they may be able to pay for a subscription there, as well as download the app or whatever it might be. Just more ideas.
Yeah. Melinda, probably many of them you've written in the chat room, but I'd like to give a shout out to everyone, and certainly to Jen, who's been summarizing in the chat. So please, Raymond, save the chat at the end because there's all kinds of comments. Question for you, Ray. Are you familiar with Vivino, the wine app? Check out Vivino, and they're selling wine, okay? But when you go on, you can take a photo of a bottle of wine. They immediately check out the label and they tell you what they know about that wine and where you can buy it. And the second half of my question / suggestion, and maybe you're doing this, is what are you earning when you make a referral to a plant store? Are you earning a commission or a referral fee? And is that part of your financial model?
I'm so used to these Zoom calls. I was unmuting myself, forgetting that I was unmuted. Great question, John. I will remember to save the chat. Let me start with Vivino. Yes, I was told about Vivino a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, and I think that is phenomenal what they did, and that's exactly where we are going. Now, here's the difference between the two. And imagine in your head you have a wine bottle, right? So you have a wine bottle here, and you take your picture of the wine bottle. You're taking a picture of a two-dimensional object, right? It's a flat object with text on it, very clear text. Yeah. And I was explained this by a Georgetown professor who was back when I was still building the back end. She said plants are different. And I remember she made me walk with her through their garden at Georgetown for like an hour and a half. And she explained to me that, first of all, you're starting with a three-dimensional object, right? So three-dimensional object, and then you have light variance going on. And then in order to identify certain things, there's like shapes that are distinguishing characteristics on some plants that are different from other plants. It's very fascinating. So yes, that's where we're going. But in terms of how you get there, it's easier to do it on a flat two-dimensional object with text versus
Sure.
a three-dimensional object with distinguishing features and light variance. Now, the other part of that, in terms of the monetization, I'm just going to answer you shortly and succinctly. Yes, that is exactly, you hit the nail on the head. That's where we're going, and that's how we want to get there.
Very exciting. I believe all people have all asked questions except for one very important person whose name is Donnell Johns. And Donnell, if you are awake, would you ask our very last question? And if you're not awake, Tony Barnett, who's been in charge of slides forever, can ask on your benefit, on your behalf. Let's go to Plan B, Tom.
Raymond, the great
I'm
presentation.
actually here.
There he is.
I couldn't find the mute button.
Talk to Ray.
Somebody have to wait.
Yeah, that mute button is tricky, but Ray, thank you so much for choosing 1 Million Cups and being a presenter with us. My question to you is, what can our 1 Million Cups community do for you?
So great question. I feel like, was that the entirety of your question, Donnell?
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off. Great question. I feel like everything that we talked about today, you've given me a lot more to think about than you guys could realize, and a lot more actionable things I can immediately sort of incorporate into our strategy. The other part of that is, download the app, tell your friends. That's the second thing you could do. That is if you like it. If you don't like it, then shoot me a note. You have my contact information. Tell me, Ray, I don't like it, and here's why I don't like it. And that'll be great. I'm not going to argue with you. I'm going to say, okay, well, I'm going to act on your feedback and come back in 3 to 6 months and see if I haven't fixed the problem for you. And the last part of that is, you guys mentioned a lot of sort of different relationships here that I don't have right here in Virginia. So if you have a direct contact with that individual or individuals, please put me in touch. I can't tell you how many times, like I mentioned, Adria just directly connected me with Merrifield, and then I bugged their employees for years while I was building this thing. All of that would be helpful. So thank you.
Fantastic. Well, let's give a round of applause to Ray, and then we're going to turn it back to John Yu.
All right, great. Thank you again, everyone, for another highly stimulating conversation this morning. I hope you learned a lot and a lot to kind of take away. All right, next week, we have another fantastic speaker. Name of the company is Get a Head Shot. It's going to be Kevin Elwell is going to be presenting, and so I would love to encourage anyone who's had a headshot or is looking for a headshot. I would like to invite you to come and learn about his company and his business challenge. All right, next slide. All right, so we have a number of presenters that are lined up, both March as well as April. April, I think they're mostly open, but we have a number of applicants currently looking to schedule. But there are some open slots. So if you or you know someone that you think can benefit from presenting, as you know, you're going to get a ton of feedback and a ton of helpful information. Please let one of us organizers know, or you can go to Fairfax, 1 Million Cups Fairfax website and apply to present. All right, next slide. All right, so these are a number of upcoming events. I don't know if Russ is still around to kind of go through some of the events that are coming up. All right, Russ is not here, so you can see here a bunch of community-oriented events that are coming up, so feel free to check them out. And does anyone else have any events that they would like to share with the group? All right. All right, now next slide. All right, so I want to thank you again for participating. As you know, entrepreneurship is a journey, and along that journey, we're going to face many challenges. And at 1 Million Cups, we come together as fellow entrepreneurs to help each other to overcome those challenges. So I look forward to seeing you again next week. All right, so this is a quick note about Kaufman Foundation. They're all very big on entrepreneurship and small business. So if you want to learn more about Kaufman Foundation, please check them out on their website. All right, I think that is it. That is our last slide. We have a few minutes. You're welcome to stick around and continue to network. We'll look forward. Thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Great job, Ray. So interesting.
Thank you
And
so
good
much,
job
John.
moderating, John.